Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Supernatural Substation. I'm your host, Alyne Pustanio, and with me is my co-host extraordinaire, Bernadine Richardson. Hey, Bernadine.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great.
Yep, I do too.
Finally, the weather's better. Goodness.
Yep. And we get an extra hour of daylight savings time. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you like that, or do you like
No,
regular time?
I like it to get dark earlier so I can go to bed earlier.
Because there's right now there's like this debate going on. Because I made the mistake of going on Twitter and looking at stuff, and so there's people apparently the president is considering like doing away with daylight saving time, and there's like a whole group for and a whole group against it. And I've always been regular time, just let it be regular time, because naturally the days get longer in the summertime. You always get those extra hours in the summertime, and it's better for your rhythm. Like the arguments are like nobody's supposed to be getting up in the dark, and going to school in the dark. And some people like you and other people have trouble settling down to go to bed, to actually relax, to go to sleep, because it's daylight longer. So some people feel like they should be up longer, but I've always been like standard time. It was fine. It worked since the beginning of time, so all of these arguments for, an extra hour, and it's even earlier now in March, because usually, at least recently, it was like the second or third weekend in March. Now they pushed it up all the way to the beginning of March, and it used to be Halloween weekend or right at the last weekend in October where it would go back, where it would fall back, and now that's into November. And they always say, well, people will stay out longer, and the economy will benefit because they'll be out, spending money longer, and like who? So what? They will be out if they're going to be out in summer. They can go at normal time. Just leave the time alone, but they want to manipulate everything. So I'm watching to see, there's even a Twitter page that you can follow I think it's called Save Standard Time or something like that. And so they're all back and forth. So we'll see. We may get regular time back, for 4 years or whatever, we may get it back, and then it'll be thrown in turmoil. But I guess I guess I like it because you can get out, and I like it a little bit. You can get out and do stuff in the garden and stuff like that. If you're coming home late, you got a little bit more daylight. But other than that, I can live without that. So, but I was I was off of Twitter and I went to YouTube. It's not an upgrade. Yeah, so I've been watching. I watch, yes, folks, we are going somewhere with this, and I'll explain in a minute. I watch these compilation videos, and it's like, there's a Slap Tam. This guy has over 3 million followers. I remember when I first started watching him on YouTube, it was like, he was just one of whoever. I say he because it's always one guy. They were like, just 3 million people follow this guy's channel. And he does the typical clips, like people are doing on TikTok now too. Little clips of apparently paranormal activity, and it's like you get 10 clips or 5 clips or whatever. And, they're running at about 2% of 3 million videos, or all the videos that he's got, have ever been real, have ever had something that makes you go, so. And so I remember, or I know that when we would appear at conventions and stuff like that, we talk about the different, how you can explain the different types of hauntings according to the levels of existence or the reality of the world. So we were we were going to do that. This is what we're going to do. I have a book called Supernatural Dangers of Paranormal Exploration. And in it, I talk a lot about, I basically go through the dangers, the supernatural reality that paranormal investigators interact with when they do their investigations and all this. And it was a really perfect time, in Slap Ham when these people, a team, I don't know where this is. I have to look up, but it's a place called Bel Air House. I may have seen it or it didn't ring a bell. But I remembered how we always talked about people who did this. The woman who apparently owns it or whatever was being interviewed, and she says, what caught my attention was when she said, "Oh, the sulfur smell." And I paid more attention. I put it up. I was like, what is she talking about? It's demonic. And I remembered I had forgotten that, how much these people, these random mass of people will always shoot for the demonic right away. It's demonic, it's bad. So it's gotta be a demon. It's bad. It stinks. It's whatever. It's gotta be a demon. So that kind of prompted me to add that kind of in here, because folks, it's not always a demon. There are bad spirits out there that were human, and that are not demonic, or that may be other types of, objectively real entities, but are not demons, that can do bad things. And what we've always said is a lot of these paranormal teams and investigators, at least early on, who were mimicking ghost hunters, let's be real, they all got lit up by ghost hunters. And so they wanted to have these paranormal teams. And ghost hunters is the cause of so many people running around trying to debunk and saying debunk until the cows come home. We're going to debunk it. And then the other thing was, we're going to use science to debunk it. So, and they would interview these teams, or they would talk, and you'd hear them being interviewed. And you say, well, we approach this scientifically. And there's always some guy who's like, oh, I don't believe in it. I guess you'd call me a skeptic because I don't believe in it. So we've always been, right? It's been like, well, if you don't believe something's there, what are you investigating for? What are you doing? You don't believe it. You don't believe it. What's it? Right? What is it that you don't believe? That ghosts exist, that these people are having objectively real experiences that you're trying to help, and you don't believe that, so you're trying to tell them that they're wrong and prove they're wrong? That's how it came across to me all the time. It's like, well, I don't believe it, and I'm going to try and prove they're wrong, and you've been around people like that.
Sitting in our front row,
right,
debating what you don't believe in.
Right. And why are you on TV? And why are you even a paranormal investigator at all? Because I know you don't go in there with that kind of attitude. But even though you understand and believe in the reality of these things, you don't go in there with that attitude either. You basically go in like a blank slate, right?
Yeah, you have to have some skepticism that, not everything is paranormal.
Right. And so it's kind of a neutral.
Try to prove what people do have, or disprove it. Sometimes it's a natural source.
But you believe.
And they're afraid of what they, what's going on, they believe. But if we can disprove it, that it comes from a natural source, then it helps them. That's where the help comes from. It eases their mind. They can sleep at night.
Right. But you don't go in there. You go in there kind of like in neutral. That's it's like you could, you're open. Yeah. It's not like you want it to be paranormal, so you're looking for something, or you want it to not be. You're open to either conclusion. Like, it doesn't bother you if you conclude that the noises they're hearing are perfectly explainable. It doesn't bother you as a paranormal investigator. And either way, like, oh, well, I knew it. I could disprove you. I knew it. So
I do try to train my team please don't run. Please don't scream.
Yeah. If you're
Because,
whispering.
you don't wanna scare the client,
Hmm.
We're supposed to be professional, but, yeah, sometimes things happen.
Yeah. But inevitably, I mean, all these, all of the stuff that blew up after Ghost Hunters, and then we got Ghost Adventures, and every episode something major happened, and they, of course, they were the ones who took it from zero to demon in, like, nanoseconds. Like, after the first commercial break, they had figured it out that, it's demonic. You're going to hear a door opening.
His
I'm
name from
opening.
England, who were they? I don't
Oh, you're
remember.
talking about, you're going to hear
They
doors squeaking,
they
folks.
come
I'm
to
opening
test
them.
all the
Oh, Derek
time.
Acora with Most
Yeah,
Haunted. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he was. Yeah, well, and the way they figured him out too was really really smart, because they like fed him information beforehand, saying that they had gotten a name, that some people had gotten a name, and they gave it to him, like, or they told him what it was, some kind of weird name, and it turned out to be an anagram for Derek is a clown or something like that. Derek is a fake. Yeah, so they totally proved he was a fake, because they were suspicious that every time he went anywhere, he'd lapse into these apoplectic fits of who he was, and all this other stuff. And even mediums and psychics will tell you they don't hit it every time. And a good
Well,
a good ghost hunter. What?
remember on one of his shows, I was watching very closely because I knew that he was up to something. Well, I'm watching him on the show, and they have two twin beds and a small nightstand in between the two beds, and they have a lamp. Well, I see the team there, and the camera's on him. Well, I watch his face, and he looks at the lamp.
Mm-hmm.
Then he looks away. He looks at his team like he was up to something. I knew it. So
Mm-hmm.
he sits on the bed, and with his eyes closed, he reaches and grabs the lamp and throws it across the room and falls into his fit.
Yes, I remember that.
So I'm like, well, he already knew the lamp was there. He just looked at it.
Yeah, he looked at
So
it to
he
see
could
how
grab it
far it
with his
was.
eyes closed. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like it was,
Uh-huh.
and that was so fake.
It was in the beginning you want to believe, you want to believe that there's somebody real, but no, but he was too. Yeah, I remember that one. But then
That was too obvious.
after they got rid of him, the show continued, and then they themselves were caught faking evidence. It was the one that did it. Well, I'm sure there were many, but there was one where they had a static camera looking down a hallway, and it was some English manor or something like that. And they were like downstairs, and there was a long hallway that ended in a T with another hallway that would cross in front of that. And they caught one of their own team walking back there, but they were just far enough outside of the IR light, right? They were just a little too far to capture clearly, but it was clearly, it was a person to anybody with eyes or with a brain, but it was dim enough that it looked, kind of like it could have been a ghost. But it's one of them walking around, one of them walking on the other side of the house, walking around doing the same thing, these other idiots are doing. And they really got dragged for that. And I think that ended their show, you know. And the thing that sticks out, like, we're not here just to criticize. Well, yeah, we are now. Well, when you come to Ghost Adventures, yeah. And I've always said, and this has to be true, it's the law of averages, that these people have they have a TV show, they have a massive budget behind them, and they can go to all these places. They can go to somebody's home, just a regular home, somebody, or they can get into like Poveglia Island, and spend the whole night there. So the law of averages is that, or days there, I think they were there a couple of days, ghost adventures, but the law of averages is that they're gonna get real evidence at some point. They're gonna be in a really haunted spot, and they're gonna get real evidence. And I mean, I don't know how it would average out, but it's just the law of average. I mean, that they would find somewhere haunted in all these hundreds of places that they've been, and so like for Jason and Grant, when they came down to do the Myrtles, which they claimed, which they stamped as definitely haunted. But that's another show that's something for another time. They were freaked out because they had a thermal camera and they were walking around outside the Myrtles, which is haunted. They actually have sightings of apparitions and energy and stuff out there. It is haunted, and they caught something on thermal, and they were like, "Oh my God!" "Oh my God!" Because this was still early in their career, So I think it was like the second season. "Oh my God!" They actually caught something, and it actually was a ghost. And wow, look at you guys, And then they asked the tour guide that's always there. It was a figure, and then they saw something shine like above the figure, and then it moved out of screen view. And she comes up with some story like, she thinks, okay, that it must be a slave carrying a candelabra. Now, just let that sink in. It's a slave carrying a candelabra. Maybe, though, it could be that Union soldier that used to be on guard all the time. It could be a residual that you're capturing, and that's the bayonet on his rifle because they actually were there. They used it as a provost point, a marshal point, and they commandeered the whole plantation, and they used it as, it's sort of a sub headquarters. And that's what they did. They patrolled the grounds, and they even fought with Confederates not far from the actual property. So my guess would be it's that soldier that people claim to have captured in pictures and stuff like that. Why is it a slave with a candelabra? It's not, obviously, but obviously it's a ghost. And that was the same episode that Grant and I don't know who were in the slave quarters, and the lamp, speaking of a lamp, was being pulled away from him. Like there was a small table and a small lamp next to the chair he was sitting in, and you could see the lamp move, and they were freaking out. Well, that was faked. That was definitely faked. And that's when it kind of began to unravel for them. And eventually Grant had a couple of more hits that people saw that it was fake, and then he quit. And then they went on without him for a little while and whatever. But the law of averages is, they're going to catch something, and don't even start me on the ghost hunters. Eastern State Penitentiary, a guy running around in khakis with a black thing. He had a black, I don't know, cloth running on the. Yeah, remember, you could see his shoe, and in the bottom of his khaki pants. And he had on some black sheet or whatever, and he's running up which I got to give it to him. He was in complete darkness, running up a thing that's all rusty and has holes. So, I got to give it to him. I think it was that guy that said, "Dude, run," the one they got, Brian Harnoy. I think he was under the sheet, and we saw his Nike and the khakis. It's like, what do you think? We're stupid? But it all comes around to, at least in my opinion, they don't really even know what they're looking for. When they encounter something, they can't identify what it is because they don't have any reference points. And the problem that they have done, and I think Mr. Gray on YouTube, he has basically a channel where he tears these people to shreds, not just the old guys, but new guys too. And he just proves it. He stages fake videos, and then he plays them and says, I believe in this. And then he tells you, I did it like this. I used this, or I did that. They don't understand. Like if I was going to fake a demon interacting with me, I would know what to do with it. I wouldn't want it, but I would know a little bit. But I don't know how to set up, choreograph stuff and all this stuff. But the thing is that aside from the skepticism that causes them not to believe or not to accept that they're looking for something real, that's objectively real in its own reality, they don't have any idea about those realities. So they don't know what types of entities they can interact with. They don't know how these entities behave in their own reality and what impacts it has when they are trapped or invade our reality, material reality. So the first thing in my book, I put forth, and this is the theory that I've always stood by, is you don't have to be doing magic. You don't have to be a witch or a Satanist. You don't have to be a Wiccan. You don't have to be any of those things to have an understanding of how the occult works and how the tradition has been built up in occultism that fills in the gaps, like that are missing, that you can't, that are just missing in the explanation and context of the entities or the types of hauntings or the things that you can experience as a paranormal investigator or as somebody who's having a haunting going on in your house, or who's had an experience, or who's encountered something in the woods, or who's seen even a UFO or something. There's the frame of reference that is missing, and still is, and always has been missing in paranormal, or at least since the first wave kind of backed off, since Hans Holzer and them, when they became too old for the in crowd. So I guess I'd say since ghost hunters advanced this whole thing and blew it up all over the world, the context that is missing can only be found in the occult. The explanations about what's going to happen to you if you do this, what are you going to do if and what's it going to look like, and what is going to happen? What are you going to feel? What could it be? What's its name? What are they doing? If you see this, like, there's a lot of people that do investigations and they come across evidence of magic. And because you might be dealing with a moody 15-year-old guy or a moody 15-year-old girl who's now into Wicca or whatever, or doing this stuff or Necronomicon stuff, and they don't know what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing, but they did something. And so now the mom and dad, or the big sister, wants an investigative team to come to the house to tell them what happened and what it is. And somebody like I watched on TV, this woman here who is in the house talking with one of the investigators, filming her for their own channel. So this was like a clip on a different channel, on the Slaptam channel. She has no idea. She's saying it's demonic. I smelled sulfur. That's it. And the guy sitting there is agreeing with her. He's, yeah, that's right. How is that right? Based on what? I mean, I guess I can sound a little OCD about it, but it's like, how do you know that? Nobody challenges it. And if they try to explain it, then they always fall back on it's scientific. There is no real science. There's no real science for this. There is no codified, scientific, proven method for investigating the paranormal. They have all kinds of gizmos and gadgets and things that were designed for other things that people have adapted to it. And now they are independently inventing things based on some of those things. But there really isn't a field of study where, there's like a board of review that sits and looks at people's evidence and says, yeah, this is fake, or yeah, this is real. It could be. There's nothing like that, which is why you get people sitting on TV doing those kind of things and saying, yeah, it's demonic, when they have no idea. And that, if you just stop and think about it, that's a lot of people. That's people I know and that are running around saying it's demon. It's a demon. I couldn't get the demon's name out of my head. I mean, that's what you get. So if we were to come up to, wait, what?
They detect energy. Even the gizmos we have, they detect energy. Well, spirits have energy. Spirits need energy to manifest. They can manipulate the gizmos, but you still don't know what you're dealing with just that.
Right. And you could be,
You know,
some people don't do
you
the baseline, and you could be
right.
sitting next to a faulty electric plug or something. A lot of people don't do what you do.
They don't do an EMF sweep before they even start their investigation. They're working with high EMF. They're wasting their time trying to catch evidence of paranormal activity when high EMF is all over the house
Right, right.
from faulty wiring. So that makes you hallucinate. It causes nausea. It causes all
Yeah.
kinds of things. You see spirit. You see
Yeah.
shadows, and
Well,
it
even
just causes all kinds of problems.
something as simple as mold. If there's a lot of mold undetected in your house or something, that can cause symptoms. That can, and I mean, there's it's a lot, and it's surprising to me
You have
that
to rule out the natural first.
yeah, yeah. But it's surprising because you're saying that, and I know you do it, but a lot of teams that I see, at least evidence of on YouTube and elsewhere, they've abandoned that. They don't go in and say, let's lay a baseline. They just walk out here with this phone app, Phantasm, Necro, whatever. I don't know. They've got all different kinds of phone apps that are rigged that basically
That are
cycle
throwing
through.
out words. Yeah.
Yeah, they cycle through the same words like every 24 hour. It's either 12 or 24-hour period, depending on what the app is set at. And one of the hallmarks of paranormal investigation is wanting it to be contacting and interacting with you. So you're going to find a way. If it says a name, and then it says some random words, and then it says a name, and you're going to find a way if you really want this to be true, what you're doing, what you're experiencing, you find a way to explain that and fit it in to what you're looking for. Oh, it said dozy or something, yeah. And there's this reinforcement by everybody else around. And I'm not even talking about the clowns, the young ones that are out there running around with this equipment, screaming and hollering and doing all the shit that they do on these videos. I mean, honestly, and that is what is setting the tone, and that's the face of paranormal investigation now. Is two clowns and their team, quote unquote, running around in the woods talking about the Wendigo, and they're in frickin' Iowa. Oh, no, not even. Let's not say that. They're in like I don't know, somewhere where there's no Native American presence or what. It doesn't matter. They're like, it's a Wendigo. It's a this. I did see in a comment on one of these where it was the media. It was they say Wendigo and Skinwalker as much as they say demon and Bigfoot. And there was a Native American guy in the comments who was trying to explain to them that the Wendigo itself is attached to Native American Navajo tribe tradition. Like, if it's not Navajo land or previously their territory, if you're not in their area, then it's not a Wendigo, because it is specific to that Native American tribe. And he was trying to explain that, dude, it's not a Wendigo. And then he said something about a skinwalker, and he's not wrong about that, because a skinwalker is basically what it says. It's just walking in and out of different skins. And that's going into the realm of the supernatural reality of entities, demonic entities that exist in nature that can do that. And then there's even the Nahuale, which is like the same thing. It's a skinwalker type thing, but it turns itself primarily into things like donkeys and cats and dogs to hide theft and crimes that it commits. And that's like particular to Mexicans, right? So so you'll experience that in Texas and the border states and stuff like that. But it's prominent in Mexico. So, they running around, it's a Wendigo, and screaming and hollering on these quote unquote investigations. And even if they found something, they would not know what the hell it was. They really, if somebody would walk up to them, could hit a button and say, okay, pause everything. That thing standing right there, what is it? They couldn't tell you. Where did it come from? Where does it live? Where's it going to go when it leaves here? They don't know, and they're like, they've got millions of views. And it's really frustrating because it's like the second wave of the complete wrong information and the wrong way to do paranormal investigation and a bunch of bullshit. It's like there was once a serious aspect to it. Even when Ghost Hunters was around, there was a serious aspect that someone like you who's going to say, well, it could be, maybe it's not. If it isn't, we'll disprove it or, whatever. We're not coming in here, we're debunking this and this is, we're just going to apply science to it and debunk it. And we're not coming in here, ooh, I feel the energy when I walk. You're more of a scientist than any of it because of the way that you investigate. And because you know the types of entities that you can come in contact with. So when I wrote this book, I opened the book basically saying that the best way, and this is the way I put it, where did I put it? The reality of the world. Here it is. Let's see. I don't want to bore everybody with reading my stuff, but taking the occult traditions and as explanations, taking them into mind. When that investigator ultimately finds a proof that can stand up to the scrutiny of both the mundane and supernatural worlds, he or she may then accurately state that evidence has been found proving that a paranormal encounter with a supernatural reality has occurred. And the best way to do that is to understand, first of all, what it is you're looking for. Where does it come from? What is it? You're not going to go from what is it to demonic, in 0 to whatever nanoseconds, if you're doing your work right. So I proceeded on with the reality of the worlds, the reality of the different worlds of existence, the different planes, the different levels, whatever anybody wants to call them. And everybody's familiar in one way or the other with all or most of these. They've heard them before. So like here on Earth, I'll start, I guess, from bottom up. Here on Earth, we are in the lowest plane of existence, the lowest vibration, reality, material reality. So we are trapped here in physical reality. Everything lives, everything dies, everything decomposes and goes and disappears and becomes part of physical reality. Basically, even if they cremate somebody, they're still physically here, they're ashes. Even if you throw the ashes away, they become part of the earth or the sea or wherever it is that you're throwing them. The garbage, the dumpster. Mm-hmm. I mean, it depends. Not everybody likes, I knew somebody who gave away little bits of ashes to people who were traveling to different places and said, here, take her there, take her over there, take her. And people did it. So she got to travel, the ashes did. But this is physical reality. It's where we feel everything. There is a lower reality, but that's not accessible to us. That's the reality, of that it's just not accessible. It's not even accessible to occultists, but that's more of a base reality. It would be something akin to levels in hell. Okay. But it's a reality. But lowest reality that we're dealing with is physical reality. And, we can't pop in and out like Bewitched and all this stuff. We're in physical reality. We're affected by its rules, its laws. We can't do anything about it. The only way to get out of physical reality is to die. And when you die, then your body stays here. The body is completely lifeless. It's physical. It's going to decompose, whatever's going to happen to it. The soul, our soul, which makes us alive, which is like the vivifying breath that's in us, the thing in us that's making us walk around, goes back to the creator, back to where it came from, because we don't own that. And then you have the spirit personality, who is you or me or whoever it is experiencing the death process. So I'm going to stop there with that one, and then I'm going to go to the top, the upper realities, and come back down. So the supernal reality, or the supernal level of existence, we can't get there. We can get there as dead personalities, as spirits, but we have to go through other realities, because that's where God, creation, whatever it is that you call it, that's where spirit, supernal spirit is. But directly below that is what's called the mental realm, or the mental plane. And this is where thoughts take place, where our thoughts come from. This is where demons interact with humans on a mental level. This is where they are most active, on the mental level of existence. Because from that level, they can manifest their thought down through the rest of the levels to us, to us either alive or dead. That's where they function. That's their link with humanity. But it's not only that. It's not only them. There are other spirits on the mental level. That's where our thoughts, like if you think something, particularly if you're thinking positive, if you're doing mantras, or if you're repeating things for good luck, or whatever it is, you're throwing that out there to the mental level, and it takes form. It takes a form that is objectively real on that level. But to become real to us, it has to come down through the other levels. And the astral level is just below the mental level. And this is where a lot of people are familiar with astral projection. Everybody knows about out-of-body experiences. And yes, the astral plane is where your spirit goes when it leaves your body during astral projection. But it is also where you begin to interact with things like your consciousness, things that you've imagined, where our spirit personalities go after death. Thoughts and dreams on the astral plane can impact more easily. So if you're doing magic, okay, let's take as an example. You're physical, right? But you want to do the magic. So you've got to reach up to the astral or the mental plane, or, at minimum, the astral. So when you project something out, you do a spell, you project something out, your will, the astral, it goes to your will is on the mental level, then it goes into the astral, and it becomes real, and it travels down through the etheric reality to impact whatever it is you were working on, or whatever it is you wanted done in your material reality. So the two most important levels of existence, and each of these planes of existence, or levels, or whatever you want to call them, have their own entities. They have their own beings that are there and exist there in that reality. That's their reality. The two that the paranormal investigator or the occultist is mostly going to, primarily paranormal investigators are mostly going to interact with, are the astral, which we just described, and the etheric plane, the etheric region. This is when your body dies and you go and you're dead and your spirit is loose now, you suddenly become aware on the other side. And where you are immediately is in etheric reality. And it is closest to the lowest reality, and it is closest to the magnetic aura of the earth, where the living are. There's like a lower etheric, and then there's a higher that is closer to astral. And in the lower etheric is where all of us go when we die. Then we should, and billions do, pass quickly out of it and move on to the astral and then up. Unless we got stamped with, you go to purgatory or hell. I mean, it doesn't matter. You find there's a ticket waiting for you to go somewhere else. But generally speaking, this is what's going to happen. And most spirits just pass through the etheric, the different speeds. This is where the spirits go that, and they linger. They can linger for a while trying to understand what has happened to them. The way they begin to understand is they see their dead body. They see familiar people going through the grief process. They are shown that their life has ended. And this all happens really quickly. But there are times, and a lot of times, that spirits actively refuse to go through the death process and through to the astral level and beyond. They won't follow the light. They won't go in the light. They won't see those spirits that are by them as helping them. They will ignore angels or any spirit guides that are there to take them on. They will run away, and they can run and hide because this reality, this lower etheric region, I call it the outlaw country, which is a great term for it, because there's a lot of spirits in etheric reality close to the magnetic sphere of the earth that are evil, that have been out there for centuries or since time immemorial. And death does not always improve people. And when they become aware of what they are now, what their spirit can do, and the way that it can affect the living that it's left behind in the living world. A lot of times they just don't want to go. Criminals, addicts, just mean people, occultists, people who have worked to outsmart death, people whose spirits became vampires. This is all in this outlaw country. And there's gangs, there's roving gangs of people, there's spirits there to accuse the dead. So a lot of the time, what's happening is you're interacting with these lower etheric spirits. And the ones who have really been out there for a long time, they do ruin for the sake of ruin. They do evil things for the sake of doing evil things. Some of them will cause other people to commit suicide because they did. It's been known that there have been groups of spirits who have died that way, one way or the other, and they will gather around. They are drawn to people who are considering ending their lives, and they give them they project onto them their own feelings and thoughts. And it's a lot of times people will say, sadly, someone will do that and gave no indication whatsoever. Like there was no reason. This person was not unhappy. Nothing happened, to propel the person or compel the person to do this act. And then suddenly one day they ended it. Well, it's because there are spirits. You don't know, the intimate reality of what's going on with this person's personality, their mind, what's going on. But there are spirits who will be patient and stay for years just to drive an individual to join them. And when that individual does it, they become aware on the other side and they see the spirits that had been haunting them all that time and putting the thought in their head that was that they had to do that exacerbating bad feelings and, feelings of whatever, inequality, jealous, sadness, whatever, and then making them do that. And they laugh. And these spirits become lost and trapped there. Spirits of children are on this level. They run away, just like in Poltergeist. In the first movie, where the little girl was running, she was in some place, but the spirits were following her everywhere. That's etheric reality. And sometimes they run and they're scared of the spirits that are trying to move them on, take them, even if it's someone they recognize. Because a lot of times people will die and they'll see people they recognize. They don't realize they're dead. They see people like their dead mother and they think she's a ghost and they run away. So it's a chaotic plane of existence. When you get a little higher to it and closer to the astral, they begin to understand a little better, but they have to move through this this magnetic thing that's holding them basically to the earth sphere, and they have to move through that. So the example I gave of the woman who smelled sulfur and it's a demon, well, not necessarily. You can imagine understanding now how miserable some of these spirits are that are trapped there and won't listen and won't go and are trapped there or refuse to because they're avoiding it. A lot of times there's a lot of people who think that the minute they die, they're going to be standing in front of God and they're going to get judged and they're going to go to hell. And then people think that they judge themselves and they say, "Oh, no, I'm going to go to hell if I see God," and they run away. They flee. Their spirits flee because they're scared. So they go and they hide, and they go into other areas. They get swept up with other spirits. They get swept up into other things, and they avoid the passage through death as long as they possibly can. And some of them have been out there forever. So that's not improving them at all. And then you have the actual demons moving through these realities because idiots down here are summoning demons all the time. So the important thing to understand about demons, and we've said this a lot, is it takes a lot of hard work to actually engage a demon. A lot of people, so the woman sitting there, I'm sick to my stomach and I stayed in bed. No, okay, yeah. But were you doing it? Did you draw a circle and a triangle on the floor? Did you try any of this stuff? Were you just chanting? No? Okay, well then there's a good likelihood it's not. It's just a really bad entity that's got you. So all these, just like physical reality affects us and there's things we can do, there are limitations and things on these other levels of existence. But if you know that you're going to, if you know basically what that entity is that primarily stays there and what effects it has, like for instance, when we talk about demons, they're there, they're real, and they're here, they're accessible for a reason, but they're here in this cosmic reality for a reason and a purpose. And if you go to where they are in their reality, then they're acting just like they act. It's like you'll see demons just being demons. Now, it will affect you negatively, and it will definitely impact you if there is a demon down here on the material plane. And it will really affect you if you're the one who got it down here, because they don't want to come here. The very first rule of why they don't want to come here is because why did Lucifer get cast out of heaven? They hate humanity. They don't want to come. They're not going to, you're summoning here to do, primarily to do what? Win the lottery? Get somebody to love you, kill somebody, do this. So you're summoning this hypercosmic being down into your reality. It's going to be pissed. It's going to be mad. It's not going to be able to take any kind of form that you recognize. And it's going to, if it can, it will hurt you too. It may be that you are able to command it with the powers of the angels and other spirits, and sometimes with Jesus Christ, with the name of Jesus. You can make them do things, but that doesn't mean they're happy. And there's a slingshot on the back of that, because if you leave any door open, any crack, anything, they'll come through. And at the end of it, they'll pop your ass too. And that's how a lot of that happens. But most of the hauntings, most of the things that we see on paranormal shows, or most of the hauntings that paranormal investigators see, well, they may go their whole careers or time of study in the field or time of action and never encounter a real demon. So the ones that are saying, yeah, it's a demon all the time, No, it's not. And you might want to get another paranormal investigator. So unless you understand as a paranormal investigator, this delineation of what you might be encountering, for instance, there's elementals, there's fairies. We've talked about this often because you had a fairy haunting. You more than one, but you've had a fairy. You actually caught video, right, of a fairy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and we had, the lady saying, I see them all around and they're doing things, and they're like, it's like verbatim the old folklore of these little helpful fairies called brownies and stuff like that, doing nice things in a person's house. And the flip side of that is if you try to drive them away, they'll not only hurt them, they'll hurt you even more because you tried to get rid of them. So, but these are the things that you can encounter. Where are you going to encounter these? In the etheric and the astral. They're closer to you in the etheric, but they can travel back and forth between the astral, the etheric, and the physical realm. Nature spirits, okay? They exist in our nature, in here, in our nature, in our physical reality, but their real existence is on another plane. So a lot of times, people can say what they want and not agree with us, but if you don't know what you're dealing with, what it might do, what kind of actions it might take against you, then you shouldn't be doing that. If you're in there looking for evidence of a haunting, it's not always, dead Uncle Joe or Sally at Sally's house or, Madame LaLaurie at the LaLaurie mansion. She's not there, by the way. Hint, note, she's not there. Or, Chloe at the Myrtles, okay? Another. But, it's not just that you're looking for. You're looking to see, you're there to focus on the kind of impacts that it's having on people. Demons, mental impacts. That's the first place they start. They start like a little screw in the head and they get them obsessed, and then it becomes an oppression, and then it becomes full-on possession. Other spirits do other things physically. Poltergeist spirits, other ghosts, spirits that are trapped or staying in their houses because they don't want to leave, and they're doing things to drive you out. They find that they can affect your reality. Is that a simple ghost? No, that's a spirit that started as a ghost and has now learned how to manipulate physical reality with the help of other spirits on the other side. And the only way you're going to be able to say, yeah, it's this kind of spirit or that kind of spirit, at least my contention is you have to know what you're dealing with. You have to know that, and you can't go in and I don't believe any of that. You have to believe in the objective reality of these levels of existence, the planes of existence, and the fact that each of them has their own laws, their own rules, their own objective results when you interact with them. So that's like the first part of supernatural dangers. There's a lot of dangers attached to paranormal exploration, but that's like the first thing that you want to know is what are you dealing with, right?
Right. And a little note about like spirit attachments and demonic things trying to manipulate people's minds. I tell a lot of my clients and friends and family that are having troubles like that are not normally, their thoughts, that sometimes you have to distinguish, sometimes your thoughts are not your own.
Yeah.
If
Especially if they
it's
come out
not,
of nowhere.
yeah, if it comes out of nowhere, especially after you have because spirits have free will, like you said, some choose to stay here. Because if a spirit doesn't want to cross over, it doesn't have to. You have free will. You have free
Right.
will on earth, you have free will when you leave. So if you
That's
don't
right.
want to go and you want to stay here and annoy other humans, you can,
Yeah,
but
you can.
it doesn't get better. I mean, if you stay here,
Well,
doesn't
I
get
mean,
better for
picture
the
it. It doesn't get better. You staying here. I mean, there are hauntings of. I think we were talking about the movie Lake Mungo, and I watched it finally. I don't know why I avoided it for a while. It just didn't seem like something. It was like a fake documentary style. So they used a documentary style to tell the story. A girl drowns, and then her family begins to experience things in their home. And so they call in a psychic. They start looking into it. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Some people may not have watched it, but there is some manipulation there. Things they discover, and just some weird things. And the scene near the end of what the girl actually encountered. It's been out for a while, but really, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But I will say, her brother in the movie was into photography. So anytime they did like a seance, or they were conversing about the girl, they would set up cameras. And he would set up static cameras, basically like every paranormal investigator does, but not because he was just like he was wanting to prove. So he did set up static cameras, and at first it appears that they catch nothing. And then he admits to faking some things. And then at the end, there's a twist in there with the girl. It's almost like it's a unique sort of experience where she basically she doesn't just get a premonition of her death. She basically encounters her dead self. Okay. At near the end of the movie. This is, I guess I've spoiled the whole thing, but anyway, the best way to explain it is just to tell you, she meets her dead self before she dies. So there's like a time glitch element in there too. And the family works through, their grief and everything. They decide to move out of the house and, start over. And then at the end of the movie, they show you the scenes that the kid, with the photographs had captured. And some of the ones he had faked, there was a fake image of her that he had like overlaid. He, photoshopped, but basically did it with film. And then they pan over and you see that the girl's been there the whole time. The girl's spirit has been there. And there's some really creepy scenes, and some really, it makes you want to go back and look at the scenes, that these pictures, these still shots. And then at the end, the girl is stuck in the house as the family takes the last picture before the moving van pulls away. You look at them, and then it zooms in on the window, and the girl is trapped there. The girl is there in the house, So this happens. There are spirits that, in her case, it was some sort of a glitch thing, it seems to me, but her dead spirit is trapped there, and she can't leave with them. So she's stuck in the house. And there's another movie I think it's called Ghost Story. And it's the modern, there was a good one, way back in the 80s. It was really, really good. It was a ghost story with the woman that drowned and came back, and Fred Astaire was in it, and all these people. But no, the other one is a modern one with Casey Affleck and I think Rooney Mara, and you can see it. I think it was on HBO. And this has an interesting where the guy dies. The premise is he dies, and then when they take him to the emergency room, and the doctor comes out and tells her that he's died, and you can partly see his body laying on the table, and then the camera moves a little bit, and you see somebody standing there in a sheet. It's the typical ghost, like the Charlie Brown ghost with the sheet. And so this ghost, you follow through the whole movie. He goes home to the house with her, follows her, goes home to the house they lived in, and becomes trapped there. Through, she gets another boyfriend, she moves. You get the sense big swaths of time are passing. And at one point he stands in the window and he looks out at the house next door, and he sees a ghost in a floral print sheet. So it's a girl. You can tell it's a girl. And they're mentally communicating, but they're both trapped in these houses. Well, this is very real. Some people refuse to leave their houses and stay there, and so they are actively haunting their house, and that's the worst kind, because they are actively working against you because they want to stay in their house. And then there are some that are just trapped, and you will experience them by little things, walking through them, the atmosphere, the changes in the atmosphere, the creepy feeling, or the, someone watching you. There are people there whose spirits are trapped where they are for different reasons. Most of them, it's because they don't want to go, but sometimes, it's that kind of a situation where they can't leave. And different people move in, they have different experiences, but the house itself, that's how you get your haunted house. That, and people who do ridiculous experimentations with magic and stuff like that. That'll haunt your house too. But there's all kinds of these stories out there. For every dead person that is moving around close to our earth, there's a story like that. And so you cannot come in and just say, oh, it's this, it's demonic. No, it can be that really mean son of a bitch that died and refused to pass on, that died in 330 AD and is still in the etheric realm aggravating you. Okay, I mean, that's it. They're spirits from yesterday, and they're spirits from Christ's time out there in this chaos that you can encounter. And saying that you don't believe it is not going to make you any less prone to being attacked than somebody who completely believes it and is going whole hog into it's this or that. It's the same thing. You're going to get the same kind of, probably the one who doesn't believe it is going to get the eye-opening experience. And then the one that so thoroughly believes it is going to get another eye-opening experience. It's like you really shouldn't be so whole hog into this stuff, right? Oh, yes, it is. It is. Oh, it's wonderful to have a ghost around. No, it's not. It's not.
No. We lived it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not only that. And back to YouTube, there's a woman that I watch. She is nothing paranormal at all. It's, just a channel. And she moved from one part of the country to the East Coast. She moved from Nevada to the East Coast, I think, or California. And she was talking, come around October, like Halloween, she did a show about the ghost, the little girl's ghost, who lived in the house that they were in and apparently has followed them across the country. Now, it may be harmless. It may not even be a little girl. Okay. My first thought is it's probably not, but it's followed this family. Now it's attached to this family. And the trouble with having a ghost attached to your house, to your person, to an object, is that other spirits over time go and join it. They show an interest, especially if these spirits are active. They have an interest. They can see that something's going on. They can sense the energy of the attachment, and they go to it. It's the same thing with ghosts or the spirits of addicts who died addicted. We talk about this a lot, that if an addict dies in the throes of addiction, there are other spirits there that have been feeding on the addict and his spirit. I mean, unless God is merciful and takes his or her, takes their spirit, unless he's merciful and takes them right away, there's a good chance that addict, that newly dead addict, is going to stay because it wants to get that vicarious feeling. It wants to get that high, and that's with anything that you can become addicted to, spirits are feeding on it. Just let's put it like that. If you have this, alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, food, whatever it is, there are spirits there that are feeding off of it. That's why, there's in Catholic religion, there's those 7 deadly sins for a reason. Gluttony, greed, avarice, sloth. Let's take sloth. Okay, that's being lazy, doing nothing, literally hoarders. Okay, so the first thing you think of with that is a hoarded house, right? So you got all of this decomposing material, all of this trash, all of this, and not even considering the mental state of the hoarder, right? Just taking that out of it, the environment itself will produce entities. And if there's negativity in an environment like that, then you're going to go from feeder entities that are just there feeding on the decomposing matter, the physical matter, all the way to shadow entities that can come, that will take form from the negative energy in the house and the negative energy of the mess that is in there. And then next thing you know, you're dealing with a hoarded haunted house with a shadow entity in it. So, you know, and everybody's like, oh, you know, there's a tendency now for people to just say ghost, shadow entity. It's a ghost. It's not a regular ghost. You're not, you know, I hear people saying, oh, you know, I see a shadow, and my mother died 6 months ago, or whatever. And a lot of this is on TikTok. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's everywhere you look with the paranormal. Everywhere. No, that's not your mom. You know, mom's passed on probably. You know, no, that's something else entirely. And one of the worst things you can do is give these things names. Like if you're doing a Ouija board, which you never should do. You never, never, never should do. But anyway, they're going to do it. So you get a spirit to come through. If you give it a name, it's going to take that name. I mean, it could be your Uncle Joe, but 99%, 99.99%, it's probably not. It's just a spirit who's going to lie to you, gain your trust, obsess you, oppress you, and maybe possess you just from using the Ouija board. But there are too many. I guess what I'm saying is there's more, you know, any paranormal investigator looking for context about hauntings would do themselves a favor, a big favor, to just take a surface glance at some of the occult traditions surrounding the types of entities that you think you're going to encounter: ghosts, poltergeists, demons, natural spirits of the natural realm, aliens. I'm sorry, I always laugh at aliens, Dean. I just laugh. What do you think those are? Well, what do you think they are? I've just explained to you where they can come from, all over the place, right? So they come. What do they do when you have alien abductions? It all happens in your mind. You may have physical residue, but it's a mental. You link with these people these things on a mental level. That's how they communicate with you. Because if somebody walks into your room while you're communicating with a gray standing outside your window, chances are they're not going to see anything going on. So it's in your head that this thing. So what's on the mental level primarily? Demons and evil spirits. Primarily. That's what's there. I just, somebody asked me if I thought that they were real, and I was like, well, yeah, they're demons. That's what they are. They're in here with us. It's no such thing as other other universes that they're coming from. They're demons. A big reptilian looking thing is standing in front of you. You don't think that's what the hell is wrong with you? You don't think that's demonic? That's freaking demonic. I got an alligator standing on two legs with big eyes and glowing. I mean, it's yeah. That looks pretty demonic to me. Even the little gray ones with the eyes and stuff. And this is I'm not just saying that for fun. If you ever look up Aleister Crowley, his drawings of the spirit Aiwass, who communicated the Book of the Law to him, he drew him exactly what he saw. And this was in the early 1900s, so it was before any alien, all of this, this interest or close encounters with, of the third kind ever came out with little grays. He drew this in the late 19th century, early 20th century. The picture of the spirit that was convening with him when he was in the Great Pyramid in Egypt. And this thing is big-headed. He has the big head, slanted eyes. He had a little bitty nose, and the mouth. He's a gray. This is an alien. This thing appears as an alien. That is what Aleister Crowley interacted with, and he didn't call it, you know, or what a gray from the planet, you know, Zumba or whatever. He knew what he was interacting with. It was a demon, a very high demon. And there's another account of somebody who was doing workings that had something to do with Beelzebub, and he repeatedly did these rituals and thought that it had failed, and you know he had no success. And then Beelzebub, on a sunny day in California, appeared in his bedroom to him and looked exactly like the entity that Aleister Crowley drew. He stood there in Byzantine clothes, holding what looked to be a scepter in one hand or a rod in one hand, and his face was exactly the big head, the sort of slanted eyes, the typical gray alien that we see. And he knew that was Beelzebub. Why? Because he'd been trying to work with Beelzebub for weeks, and there he was. Why would he appear to him like that if that wasn't the way that he looked? And all through occult literature, and all through things like the Malleus Maleficarum and demonology and all this, there are people who describe what they're seeing when they saw it. People who did ritual magic, like the Abramelin the Mage or the Goetic magic, they literally wrote down, and probably they were priests, because back in the Middle Ages and, the Dark Ages, it was primarily Catholic priests or clerics or lay clerics who were brave enough to do this kind of magic. And they had consistent results, and they wrote down what they saw, so that, the demon that comes to you on a Saturday when you're working with Saturn, the demons, they look a certain way. And the big demon itself is described repeatedly that way. So, it's pretty simple to gain some context before you go into any kind of paranormal investigation. Queen Mary, Stanley Hotel, the Myrtles, this, that, and the other thing. Anywhere, somebody's house down the street. It can only increase your knowledge and give you something to consider that, is neither either or. So that's basically the starting point for supernatural dangers. And if you don't, what it comes down to is, if you don't believe in the supernatural it believes in you. If you don't believe in it, you may still become a victim of it. You don't have to believe in it, but it can still impact your life and the lives of the people that you're apparently trying to help in all your investigations. So it's just food for thought, basically. That's where I start out the book with that, and go into a little bit more. We'll go into it in the second part 2 of our series, talking about more interactions with the etheric realm, and then some other things. One of the books that I mentioned, which is a great book, here at the end of this section, I talk about 30 Years Among the Dead by Carl Wickland. And he was a psychiatrist, but his wife was a trance medium. And he posited a theory that more than maybe at his estimation, I think was like 75%, thereabouts. 75% of the people that he encountered in mental institutions, committed, were either possessed, attached, or being obsessed by intruding spirits of all types. Primarily human spirits is what he interacted with. But he said that basically, and this is true, and you've said this a lot, that not everybody in a mental institution is crazy. In fact, most of those people in there are not crazy. But there is a good chance that they are having an experience with supernatural entity or with some sort of supernatural experience, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So that's food for thought. And he spent 30 years talking to him. And further on, we'll get into some of the experiences that he took down. But his wife would go into a trance, and it was the only way for the spirit to contact, to basically express what was going on. And the spirits would say, like for one instance, there was a female spirit who was telling the trance medium that this man, meaning the guy sitting in the chair, right, would not leave her alone, that he follows her everywhere. She can see herself in the mirror and he's standing there. He will not leave her alone. And she is the obsessing spirit. And she's experiencing it as if she's the one who's obsessed. So this is how close the relation between our realm and their realm can be. And so later we'll go into that a little bit more. But anyway, so that's that. Hopefully giving you a little food for thought. A little bit different than our usual format, but we're going to continue on with this in our next show, and we hope you like it. So what do you think, Dean?
Sounds great. Looking forward to part 2.
I'm preaching to the choir. Because Dean's known me for years and I'm preaching to the choir. She knew all this stuff. Okay. That's why her and I clicked so well. It's like, yeah, why aren't they thinking about all that? So real deal. Dean's the real deal. If you want a psychic, a paranormal investigator, rather, she's the real deal. So, but anyway, folks, that'll wrap it up. We hope you've liked it. And if you've made it this far, that you'll like our video and possibly subscribe to our channel. We will have another part to this, and we're working on some other things that are new and different for 2025. So stick around, come back, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And if you need to find my books or contact Bernadine, the information is in the description below. So at any rate, have a great weekend. And Dean, I think that wraps it up.